It's official. The COVID vaccine will be an annual thing, just like the flu shot.
Yesterday's FDA vote was unanimous. Here to talk more about the changes and when we'll see them is Dr. Amish Adalja from the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Good to see you again, Doctor. This move is meant to simplify the process for people who can't keep up or don't even remember what last time booster they got. Is it the right move in your opinion?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that the unanimous vote wasn't about an annual shot. The unanimous vote was about making sure that we get rid of the ancestral strain in the boosters and make them all against BA4, BA5, or whatever the variant would be. We're getting rid of kind of the original version of the vaccine. There was discussion about moving to an annual schedule, but that vote was not taken during this meeting. That may happen down the line, but I think what we want to do is probably right-size this, not simplify it just to simplify it, but to make sure that people are getting the shots when they need them. And for some people, it could be annually, especially high-risk individuals. For other people, it may be less frequently. So what we want is a schedule that reflects each person's individual risk factors for severe disease.
I tell you what, it can be confusing to figure out how many boosters you've had, what do you need. So if you're fully immunized, would you have had 2 shots unless you got the Johnson & Johnson and then 2 boosters?
Well, we're moving away from defining people that way. It's just going to be sort of if you're up to date. So I would think right now somebody who's had 2 shots of the mRNA vaccines or the Novavax vaccine, plus one of the bivalent boosters would be considered fully immunized against COVID-19, but that's not necessarily needed for everyone. That's really something that high-risk individuals benefit from. I think for most people that have low-risk conditions, that don't have any risk factors for severe disease, just having the normal primary series, whatever that may be, is enough to be considered protected, because what we know is that the boosters are really beneficial for people who have a risk for severe disease, and they really should be targeted. That they're not necessarily as beneficial in low-risk populations as they are in high-risk populations, and I think we're going to start to see that type of discussion when they start to think about revising the schedule.
So just so we're clear, this is still a proposal. It's not official yet that it's going to move to an annual thing?
Exactly. There was no vote based on that. The FDA raised that issue, and the advisors had a debate about that, and they're still going to be considering that. And it may be something that's considered at a future advisory meeting in a couple of months. But no changes have been made yet to the schedule.
With that plan, will it be available and really pushed a certain time of year? Like I always think of the back to school, where he's talking about the flu shot by October, November. Would it be the same for this one?
It's unclear because we don't have that same seasonality with COVID that we have for flu. Eventually, COVID may become seasonal. And this is one of the issues with not just taking flu and transposing it onto COVID. You want to make sure it actually fits COVID. And one of the things is, do we understand the strain changes the way we do with flu? And is the timing the same as flu? And that's actually not something that we know for sure. So this is something that will probably be discussed over time with the FDA and the CDC and the advisory committee about what the optimal way is to do this. Okay. And it shouldn't just be telegraphed from flu. It's a different virus, different vaccine.
And doctor, real quick, is it safe to get the flu and the COVID shot at the same time? Because there have been recent headlines suggesting doing so may increase the risk of stroke.
So this was a small signal that they saw maybe in about 14 or so patients that was talked about yesterday. This isn't something that should change people's stance with getting flu and COVID at the same time. This is a signal that's being investigated, but most of those signals don't turn out to be anything other than coincidence, and it wasn't seen in many other different databases that they looked at. So this isn't something that people should be worried about at this time. This is the system working well and running down these signals, and I think some of those headlines are scary and almost bordering on misinformation based on what was actually said at the FDA versus what's on in those headlines.
All right, important to know. Thank you so much, Dr. Adalja. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks.